Hi, welcome to The Perspective. I'm Blaise Hope on Barita Sartu, and with me is Mike Lewis and Mike Bahorley, the star and director of Made in Bali, which will be going to this year's Cannes Festival. A short film, here's a clip.
You, Mr. Skip? I'm Made in Bali tour.
You're late.
I'm very sorry. Traffic's so very bad, huh? This is another busy day in the island. Beautiful, don't you think?
Seems like kind of a waste, though. Do all of this just for tourists?
Do what?
Carve out all these little steps. Farmers would have built much bigger plots.
Of course not. That's tradition.
Joking. Next.
Excellent. So, Mike Bahorley, you're the director. How did this film come about?
Well, thank you very much for having us here. It's a pleasure to be here. It's also a pleasure to be here with one of my friends and co-workers, Mike Lewis, as well.
Yes. Best.
And basically, it started out very simply. I was traveling back and forth to Bali in between doing jobs on American movies as an assistant director, and I just felt a connection to Bali, and I wanted to somehow get this across cinematically. I wanted to find some kind of to this experience that I was having and be able to share it.
So you were shooting films there? Or you were just visiting?
Just visiting, yeah.
One of Mike's best friends actually has a place in Bali, pretty established place actually, Sky Garden. So one of Mike's best friends invited him out there, and then they actually helped us with the screening of Made in Bali as well. So
I saw that.
Thank you to them. I was in Bali actually to see my son, and I got an email from our director of photography, Patrick, saying that I should meet Mike because he is interested in making this short film. And I met him, did a casting, and then we just hit it off, found out that we're actually from the same area in Canada, went to the same city to go to universities, actually went to rival schools. He played hockey, I played rugby for McGill. I forget, what's your school's name again?
The other big university in Montreal, Concordia University.
Yeah.
The one with the proper film program.
That one. Yes. So yeah, we just, we hit it off right away. And
when exactly was that?
This was 2 years ago. Almost exactly 2 years ago, right? Yeah. I remember reading the script at the time and having to do a scene for him in front of camera. And I remember saying to myself, I was like, great, I finally get another English role, because I don't get to act in English very often here. Most of my roles are in Indonesian, and everyone makes fun of me because I've got the really bule accent in my Indonesian language. So when I do get to do an English role, it's, get to concentrate more on the actual acting. I'm not so troubled with stumbling over words and stuff. So it's a little bit nicer, even though I do love acting in Indonesian as well. It's just a little bit harder.
Well, so let's talk about the film. What's it about?
Well, basically, it was inspired by, I was looking to do a film about a father and a son connecting in Bali. And it just so happened that I met someone in Bali, Ezra Mitchell, who actually had this exact same experience. He grew up in the US. At the age of 24, he came to Indonesia for the very first time and met his father for the very first time. So as soon as I basically was speaking to Ezra, and Ezra had mentioned that when he met his father for the first time, someone he thought he had never ended up spending any, never ended up having any communication with, his father had presented him with this box which contained these letters which had been returned, that his father had tried to contact him over all these years. And that was the moment that I decided, yes, this is the type of story I want to tell. And this is the basis of the movie. A young man, played by Mike Lewis, coming to Bali for the first time. He hires his father, who is a tour guide in Bali, to take him around Bali for the day, but he doesn't tell him who he is.
So the elements of the tour guide story, is that true? Is that based on
everything's made up except for this one moment, which is that the father had thought about the son all these years and had tried to contact him through these letters.
And that's really those are the most powerful, the letters moment of the film. That's the climax.
Yeah. I found it probably the most powerful. It was the hardest scene for me to shoot, definitely, because it's so emotional, right? Funny story is that I actually know Ezra from, he used to be a model in Jakarta, and we did some fashion shows together. So when I found out this story was about him, I was like, wow, this is Ezra. This is a guy that I actually know. So that was fun to play, someone that I know, actually, loosely based on someone I know. The reason that we picked a tour guide, though, the reason Mike picked a tour guide is because we found it the easiest vehicle in which we could really promote the beauty of Bali in Indonesia. And we have some, amazing shots because we went to 6 of the most beautiful locations in Bali, and I think it's a really great way for people who've never been there to get to see it.
Was that a driving force of when you wanted to make the film, was to shoot Bali and to show it off?
That was at the heart of it. To be able to show Bali in this beautiful way that then all my friends in North America and Europe could watch the film and then have an experience of my experience of showing up in Bali. And so what's happened is, as it's played at film festivals around the world, so many people are watching the film, and a lot of the feedback I'm getting, besides women wanting to date you, is that people want to visit. It's true.
People want to
visit me or visit Bali?
They're hoping that you're going to be the tour guide, but it's. But that's what I'm just playing in LA a couple weeks ago, and that's what people were saying is wow. Everyone in the theater was saying afterwards, we want to visit Bali.
Yeah.
Those who weren't crying from the actual story itself.
You got some tears in the audience?
I think for some reason, not for some reason, it was constructed that way to try to have an emotional connection with people. And I find that anyone who's had separation issues with their own parent, or pretty much women over 50, usually break down in tears.
Mike was telling me while we were shooting this, and I remember it's every time he's like, this is gonna be the shot, this is gonna be the shot, housewives in mid-America, you're gonna bring them to tears, this is it.
and part of that is just simply finding a way to find what is that kernel in the story that attracted me to the story, and that was this feeling that this father had been trying to connect with his son, but his son couldn't feel it. And for myself, I grew up working in a family business with my father from a very young age, and we were close physically, but it wasn't until later that we became close emotionally. Mm-hmm. And so when I kind of heard this about the letters, I've thought about my own father, who basically over the years I only recognized later that he had been trying to connect with me at a deeper level, but I just couldn't receive it or couldn't recognize it, and it couldn't be returned. So when I kind of figured that analogy out in the story, it allowed me to connect deeper with the script. And then this is something that at one point when we're going to do the final scene, I gave Mike a call and talked about this with him.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got to hold and just go to break for the moment, but don't go away. We'll be right back here on The Perspective.